Are you a sick, perverted, power-hungry freak? No.
This segment has aged like a fine wine for all the wrong reasons, much like WWE for the last 2 years. But amidst everything that's happened, nothing has topped the downfall of Vince McMahon. And don't get me wrong, he's arguably the greatest wrestling promoter of all time. However, with the allegations that have come out and every scandal that unfolds, Vince's legacy continues to get tarnished. And it should come to no surprise, by looking at everything that's come out in recent years, that he's officially resigned from WWE. It's an outcome that many expected, as his presence was doing more harm than good for the company at the time. However, if found guilty, we could see it that Vince McMahon gets the Chris Benoit treatment, where he doesn't even get mentioned on TV and probably doesn't even get inducted into the Hall of Fame. And the sad truth is, it's already happening, as his profile has already been deleted from WWE.com. He's nowhere to be found. It's so hard to believe, as this is the man who brought joy to so many fans around the world throughout his years in WWE. That being said, his character has always been questionable to many. I mean, do we all remember what his own daughter said to him live on TV?
Every time I went out to dinner with one of your business associates, I was 17 years old. You don't think they told me what you promised them I'd do? And guess what, Dad? I did it. I did it for you, the things I did with them, and I'm ashamed of myself.
I am no pervert.
Can we truly say it's an act, or has reality blurred into fiction? And while some fans are still skeptical about the entire situation, the overall majority can't help but look at the overwhelming evidence that points towards everything being true.
What's this?
The allegations I'm about to detail can be extremely disturbing for some, so keep that in mind as I break down everything in this story from the beginning. In 2002, WWE was doing well in terms of generating revenue and making great business decisions, and Vince was hell-bent on doing major things for the company. He was even successful in signing one of the founding fathers of AEW in Cody Rhodes. While one would think that everything was going alright, that simply wasn't the case. On June 15th of that year, the Wall Street Journal issued a report stating that the board of WWE was investigating a hush money payment of $3 million that Vince had secretly paid to a woman who he had sexually assaulted.
I am no pervert.
Gotcha.
One thing to note here is that Vince used the company's fund to pay off the women, and at the time this felt like major news, as Vince stepped down from his position as chairman and CEO, and because of his absence, a few days later Stephanie McMahon was announced as the interim CEO. The news was alarming to fans around the world, and Vince knew he was in major trouble and made a surprise appearance on Raw just to get a cheap pop in order to make the people think that everything was alright, even though it wasn't. And things got even worse when a second story from the Wall Street Journal broke out on July the 8th that stated that Vince McMahon paid $12 million in hush money to 4 different women. Not only that, but one of WWE's top executives, John Laurinaitis, was also being investigated for sexual misconduct, as it was alleged that he paid $1.5 million to silence a female employee through an NDA. And knowing how this could affect WWE's image, Vince miraculously retired on the 22nd of July, while John Laurinaitis was fired later on. And as a result, Triple H was named head of creative, and the quality of the TV shows improved vastly. But you will be a fool to believe that this was the last time people would hear from Vince, as he famously once said, women are his greatest weakness.
I am no pervert.
Vince was never going to stay away from something that he worked for a better part of his entire life. After all, WWE was his baby. He wasn't going to let the board push him out.
But you can't do this to me.
You know how much I sacrificed?
By the end of 2022, he was trying to return to the company. However, the board of WWE voted against it, as they believed Vince's presence would harm the image and reputation of the company. Nick Khan, Triple H, and even Stephanie McMahon were against the idea of Vince returning, and it all seemed a bit odd and fishy to say the least. But since he was the majority shareholder of the company, nothing would have stopped him from returning. So on the 6th of January 2023, Vince returned to the board of directors, and on the 10th of January, he was named executive chairman, while Stephanie McMahon resigned from the company. This was a huge blow, as Stephanie was well liked by the employees, and the main reason her father came back was that he was planning on selling the company. And this news shocked everyone, who always believed that Vince was never going to sell the company and that either Shane or Stephanie would inherit the business.
Hey yo, what the f***?
As a result of the news, Vince stated that the sale was the next step to take WWE to new heights. But the devilish intentions behind it is because it was a chance to return to power, especially taking back control of creative. After all, why will he sell the company when WWE was shattering the records in terms of revenue? So on the day after WrestleMania, it was announced that WWE was being sold to Endeavor, and the company was being merged with the UFC to form TKO. And what made the situation even worse is the CEO of the Endeavor, Ari Emanuel, was a long-term friend of Vince, and many thought that selling his company to him would ensure his return to power. And Mr. Emanuel even stated that Vince would have the final say in WWE business matters. And in addition to that, Vince would also have the final say on major WWE creative plans. So eventually, the sale was finalized on the 12th of September, but the biggest twist was yet to come. Ari Emanuel finally came to his senses and thought that Vince's presence would hurt the company in the long run, and it would be better if he stopped interfering in other people's duties. This ensured that Triple H was in complete charge of creative, something that the fans truly desired. On the flip side, for Vince, it meant his power and influence in WWE was diminishing. So as a last-ditch effort to retain his power, in November of 2023, Vince sold 8.4 million of his shares. While many thought this would spell the end of him, he still managed to retain the executive chairman position in the TKO Group, much to Triple H's despair.
Come on, man.
But all of that was going to change with the recent allegation of sex trafficking that has come out in January of 2024.
I beg your pardon?
It's fair to say that Vince's days as the CEO of WWE were numbered, and whilst it's sad to hear for many, the truth can't be ignored at this point. And looking back at some of the segments now, you can't help but think what his real intentions were.
Heal this woman's breast. Heal this woman's voluptuous breast. You do want to be employed, don't you?
Just a couple of days ago, after WWE announced a massive deal that would see Raw moving to Netflix in 2025, coincidentally, a day later, a new lawsuit appeared against Vince McMahon, in which allegations were made by a former WWE employee named Miss Grant. According to Grant's lawsuit, Vince assaulted Grant on multiple occasions and used her for sex trafficking with friends and wrestlers, including John Laurinaitis. The lawsuit stated that Vince offered Grant a job in 2019 as she was struggling financially and personally after her parents passed away. And little did Miss Grant know that Vince had other plans for her. Mr. McMahon used the opportunity to get close to her and satisfy his own desires. And Miss Grant was forced to give in as Vince promised her a promotion in the company and threatened her with world-class attorneys that will destroy her professionally and personal life if she didn't comply. The lawsuit even stated that Vince and Laurinaitis even Miss Grant in the office on several occasions. Miss Grant asked both men to stop, but the individuals didn't, and apparently the rest of the workplace knew about it but did nothing to help. In addition to that, the lawsuit even includes that Vince introduced Grant to a former UFC fighter and major WWE star that Vince was trying to re-sign in 2021. And many jumped to the conclusion that that man is none other than Brock Lesnar, considering this was not the first time that he did something like this.
Business, and he exposed himself to me at the Insurrection pay-per-view like a real dick. I remember that night I was doing interviews.
Trish and Jackie in a tag team match.
I was backstage, and I hear my name called, and Brock was in this room. Dustin was in the room, my ex-husband at the time. And Brock did the whole thing. I no-sold it, went to my dressing room. Dustin came in, he's like, don't sell it. I'm like, I'm not selling it. I didn't sell it. I'm not gonna.
And the document also outlines the instances from 2019 to 2022 where Vince McMahon allegedly provided gifts to Miss Grant to maintain the control over her. These gifts are believed to have been purchased by McMahon and expensed on WWE. Some of these gifts included jewelry, medical care, cosmetic services, WrestleMania tickets, and even $20,000 for surgery. So it appeared that both parties were benefiting from this relationship. However, in 2022, Linda McMahon found out what was going on, and fearing the worst, that if something like this got out, it would shatter his image, Vince asked Grant to sign an NDA. In return, she was supposed to get $3 million. And while Miss Grant signed the NDA, the payment stopped being made after receiving $1 million, which is why she chose to file a lawsuit against Vince McMahon. And to back her claim up, the evidence she has provided are some text messages Vince sent her, and I can't even read them out loud on YouTube, but essentially think of 50 Shades of Grey mixed in with some Dubai porta potty scandal, and that's what you have. And And it's fair to say that such behavior is not uncommon among individuals in position of power like Vince McMahon. As for where all this behavior stems from, that can be debated, although McMahon has claimed that he suffered from mental abuse from a young age, which can have a significant impact in one's behavior and attitude in adulthood. While no excuse, but the trauma of being abused by his stepfather during his early years, it can lead to a deep-seated need for control and influence as a coping mechanism. In addition to that, it may also develop a strong desire of power and control for an individual as a way of navigating feelings of vulnerability and powerlessness.
Stop the cap.
So with Vince having such a character that matches the elite that delve into fetishes as bad as this, no wonder Kurt Angle stated the following when he had to kiss his daughter on screen. He went on to say it was super weird and uncomfortable considering Vince was 2 feet away, and looking back at this segment, it was kinda weird. Now, in response to these allegations, Vince has made a statement saying that everything is a lie, that Miss Grant has made up instances that never occurred, and that he's looking forward to clearing his name. And while he hasn't been charged guilty yet, behind the scenes there are a lot of people within WWE who believe the rumors to be true, as there have been several instances in the past of this type of behavior, such as when Vince sexually assaulted referee Rita in a limousine in 1994, and in 2006 it was alleged that Vince made an unwelcome advance to a tanning booth attendant in Florida. And finally, a former spa manager at California Resort accused Vince of abuse at Resort all the way back in 2011, all of which was swept under the rug by WWE and Vince. And remember when I said it was fishy about Stephanie, Triple H and Nick Khan not wanting Vince to come back to the company in 2002? Many feel if all those individuals knew about Vince's behavior and wanted to keep him out for good, as it was going to hurt their bottom line within the company. As what's ensued from this lawsuit has resulted in several promotional companies that work closely with WWE are reconsidering their current deals. And this is not a minor issue for WWE, as their partnerships with Slim Jim, Snickers and PepsiCo bring in a large amount of revenue for the company. And knowing how the other major sponsors could have backed out, Vince officially resigned from WWE for good. And what once looked like something that could never happen for many has now become the reality for all. No members of the McMahon family is officially working for WWE for the first time, ending a run that dates back to the 1950s when Vince's father formed the company. And if you liked the video, make sure to subscribe